Hello everyone, today we're going to read Grandpa's Great Escape, Up, Up, and Away by David Williams. Up, Up, and Away. This is a tale of a boy called Jack and his grandfather. Once upon a time, Grandpa and Royal Air Force pilot. During the World War II, he flew a Spitfire fighter plane. Our story is set in 1983. This was a time before the internet and mobile telephone and computer games that could be played for weeks on end. In 1983, Grandpa was already an old man, but his grandson Jack was just 12 years old. This is Jack's mom and dad. Barbara works at the cheese counter in a local supermarket. Dad Barry is an accountant. Raj is the local news agent. Miss Felty is a history teacher at Jack's school. Detective Beef and Bo are the fighting duo. This is Town Baker, Reverend Hogg. This security guard worked at the Imperial War Museum in London. Miss Wine, the moral local old folks home Twilight Towers. Some of the elderly residents include Mr. Typhoon, Major, and Reader Elder. These are some of the nurses who work at the Twilight Towers. Nurse Rose, Nurse Daisy, Nurse Blossom. This is Twilight Towers. Twilight Towers, caring for your unwanted old folks. It looks like a dungeon. You cannot escape. Look like that. This is the map of the town. Church, town of square, the moors, Twilight Towers, park, school, railway station, Rogers news agent, Jack's house. Okay. Part 1. Reach for the sky. 1. Spammer la custard. Jack was a child who was happiest alone in his bedroom. A naturally shy boy, he didn't have many friends. Instead of spending his day playing football in the park with all the older kids from school, he would stay inside assembling his prized collection of model airplanes. His favorite were the World War II, the Launcher bomber, the and of course his grandfather's old plane, the now legendary Spitfire. On the Nazi side, he had models of the Arena bomber and the Junker and the Spitfire deadly nemesis. The musket With great care, Jack would paint his model planes and fix them to a ceiling with fishing wire. Suspended in the air, they looked like they were middle in a dramatic dogfight. At night, he would stare up at them from his bunk bed and drift off to sleep, dreaming he was a flying ace, just like his grandfather once was. The boy kept a picture of Grandpa by his bed. He was a young man in the old black and white photograph. It was taken sometime in 1940 at the height of the Battle of the Britain. Grandpa was standing proudly in the rough uniform. In his dreams, Jack would go up, up, and away, just like his grandfather had. The boy would have given everything he had, all of his past and all of his future, for one moment behind the controls of Grandpa's legendary Spitfire. In his dreams, he would be a hero in his life. He felt like a zero. The problem was that each day was exactly the same. He would go to school every morning, do his homework every afternoon, and eat his dinner in front of the television every night. If only he wasn't shy. If only he had lots of friends. If only he had break free from his boring life. The highlight of Jack's week was Sunday. That was the day his parents would leave him with his grandfathers. Before the old man had become too confused, he would take his grandson on the most magical day out. The Emperor War Museum was the place they loved to visit the most. It was not too far away in London, and was treasure trove of all things militaries. Together, the pair would marvel at the old one warplane hanging from the ceiling of the great room. The legendary Spitfire was, of course, their absolute favorite. Seeing her always brought Grandpa's memories of the war floating back. He would share these stories with his grandson, who divulged every word on the long but dreary home. Jack would bomb the old man with hundreds of questions. What's the fastest speed you ever went in Spitfire? Did you ever had to approach out? Which is the better fighter plane, the Spitfire and the Shift? Grandpa loved answering him. Often the crowd of children would gather around the old man on the top deck of the bus, home to listen to these incredible tales. It was summer of 1940. Grandpa would begin. The sight, the height of the Battle of Britain. One night, I was flying my Spitfire over the English Channel. I had become spirited from my squadron. My fighter plane had taken a pounding of the dogfight. Now I was limping back to base. Then just behind me, I heard machine guns rat-tat-tat-tat. It was a Nazi measurement. Right on my tail. Again, rat-tat-tat-tat. It was just the two of us alone over the sea. The night would be an epic fight to the death. Grandpa enjoyed nothing more than sharing stories of the World War II adventures. Jack would listen intently. Every little detail fascinated him. Over time, the boy became something of an expert on these old fireplaces. Grandpa would tell his grandson that he would make an excellent pilot one day. This always made the boy burst with pride. The later day, if ever the old black and white war film of a television, the pair would snuggle up the sofa together in Grandpa's house and watch it. Reach for the Sky was on they watched over and again. The classic Toy Story of a pilot who lost both his legs in a horrifying accident before World War II. Despite this, Douglas Bader went to become a legendary flight ace. Rainy Saturday afternoons were made for Reach for the Sky, or one of our aircraft is missing, or the way to the stars, or a matter of life and death. For Jack, there was nothing better. Sadly, the food at Grandpa's home was always despicable. He called it rations, as he had during the war. The old man only ever ate food from tins. For dinner, he would select a couple of complete random from his larder and empty them with the pan together. Corned beef with pineapple chunks, sardines and rice pudding, chocolate pudding covered in tomato soup, pickle hard with spaghetti hoops, trickle sponge with peas, baked bean mixed with teen pitch, stick of kidney pudding and fruit cocktail, huggies topped with cherries and syrup, the side carrots and considered milk, and Grandpa specifically spam al custard, a specialty spam la custard. The use of a French word gave an air of pause. It did not deserve found Fortunately, the boy didn't come for the food. World War II was the most important time in Grandpa's life. It was a time when brave Royal Air Force pilots with him fought from the country in the Battle of Britain. The Nazis were planning an invasion, a plot they called Operate Sea Lion. However, without being able to secure power of skies to protect the troops on the ground, the Nazis were never able to put their plan into action. Day after day, night after night, rough pilot like Grandpa risked their lives to keep the people of Britain free from being captured by the Nazis. So instead of reading a book to this grandpa at bedtime, the old man would tell the boy of the real life adventure during the war. His stories were more thrilling than any you could find in a book. One more tale, Grandpa, please, the boy begged. On one such night, I want to hear about when you were shot down by the fall and had to crash land in an English channel. It's late, young Jack, Grandpa replied. You go to sleep. I promised I'll tell you the tale and plenty more in the morning. But I will meet you in your dreams, squadron leader, said the old man and kissed him. He kissed Jack tenderly on the forehead. Squadron leader was his nickname for this grandson. I will see you in the skies. Up, up, and away. Up, up, and away, the boy repeated before drifting off to his sleep. In Grandpa's spare room, dreaming he too was a flight pilot. Time spent with Grandpa couldn't have been more perfect, but that was all about to change. Chapter 2, Spit Slippers. Over the grandpa's mind began a transporting him back to his days of glory more and more. By the time our story begins, the old man completely believed that he was still World War II, even though the war had ended decades ago. Grandpa had become very confused, condition that affects the elderly people, serious and sadly. There was no one cure. Instead, it seemed likely it would worsen over time until one day Grandpa Midnight might not even be able to remember his own name. As ever in life, whenever there is struggle, you can often find comedy. In recent times, the old man conditions that led to some very funny moments. On bonfire night, Grandfather insisted everyone go down to the air raid shelter at once when the next door neighbor started to letting off the fireworks in the garden. Oh, there was time when Grandfather cut a Waterton chocolate mint into the pieces of penknife and shared it with the family because of rationing. Most memorable of all, the time Grandpa decided to shopping trolley at the supermarket was really a Lannister bomber. He hurled down the Sile top secret mission during a huge bag of flour. These bombs exploded every over the food, over the trails, even covering the haughty supermarket manager from head to toe. She looked like a pottery ghost. The clean-up operation lasted many weeks. Grandpa was banned from the supermarket for life. Sometimes Grandpa's confusion could be more upsetting. Jack had never met his grandfather. This was because she had died nearly 40 years ago in a Nazi bombing raid over London. At the time, Jack's father was a newborn baby. However, when Jack stayed at grandfather's tin flat, the old man would sometimes call for his darling Peggy, as if she was in the next room. Tears would well in the boy's eyes. It was heartbreaking. Despite everything, Grandpa was incredibly proud man. For him, everything had to be just so. Crisp white shirt, flying ace mustache, Royal Air Force tie, slippers, neatly pressed gray slacks, polished gold buttons, service medals, double-breasted blazer. He was always impeccably dressed with a uniform of double-breasted blazer, crisp white shirts, and neatly pressed gray slacks. A Mormon, silver and blue striped Royal Air Force tie forever knotted neatly around his neck. As was the fashion with many World War II pilots, he favored a dashing fly ace mustache. He was always impassively dressed in a uniform of double-breasted blazer, crisp white shirt. Oh, sorry, I already read. It was a thing of wonder. The mustache was so long and connected to his sideburns, like a beard, but like a chin beat missing. Grandpa would trifle the end of mustache for hours until they stuck out at just the right angle. The one thing that would give Grandpa's confused state of mind away was his choice of footwear. Slippers. The old man no longer wore shoes. Now he always forgot to put them on. Whenever the weather is rain, instead of snow, he would be sporting his brown check slipper. Of course, Grandpa's eccentric behavior made grown-up worry. Sometimes Jack would pretend to go to bed, but instead creep to his bedroom and sit the top of stairs in his pajamas. There he would listen to his mother and father downstairs in the kitchen discussing Grandpa. They would use big words that Jack didn't understand to describe the old man's condition. Then Mom and Dad would argue about Grandpa being put in old folks' home. The boy hated hearing his grandfather, talk about in this way, as if he was some sort of problem. However, being only 12 years old, Jack felt powerless to do anything. But none of it stopped Jack ordering hearing stories about the old man's wartime adventures. Even though these tales had become so real to Grandpa, now they that the pair would act them out. They were boy's own adventure, stories of daring do. Grandpa had ancient wooden record players the size of a bath. On it, he would play booming oracle mustache with the volume as high as it would go. Mighty Man's was favorite, and together Jack and his grandfather would listen to a huge classical pie with royal bitumen. Land of hope and glory, all the pomp and crisp circumstance. Much way into the night, two old Chris would become the cook's bite as the musical soared. So did they in their imaginary flight planes. A Spitfire from Grandpa and a Ree from Jack. Up, up, and away they would go. Together they would fly high above the clouds, outwitting enemy aircrafts. Every Sunday night, the pair of flying aces would win the Battle of Britain without even leaving the old man's tiny flat. Together, Grandpa and Jack inhabited their own world and countless imaginary adventures. However, the night our story starts, a real-life adventure was about to begin. Chapter 3, A Host of Cheese. This particular evening, Jack was asleep in his bedroom, dreaming he was a World War II pilot, and he did everything he had sitting behind the controllers of the Hurricane, taken of the squadron of the deadly measurement. When he heard the distant sound of the telephone ringing, ring, 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 ring. That was strange, he thought. He won any telephones aboard 1940 fighter's plane. Yet still the telephone kept ringing, ring, 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 ring. The boy woke up with a start. As he sat up in the bed, he began his head on his motor bomber was suspended ceiling. Oh, he cried. He checked the time lace-plated Rob's pilot, which his grandfather had given him. 2:30 a.m. Who on earth was calling the house at this hour? The boy leaped down top bunk and opened the bedroom door. Downstairs in the hall, he could see his mother talking to the telephone. No, he hasn't turned up here, she said. After a few moments, Mom spoke again. A familiar tone convinced Jack there must be talking to his father. So no sign of old man at all? Well, what are you doing to do, Barry? I know he's your father, but you can stay out all night looking for him. Jack couldn't remain silent for a moment longer. From the top of the stair he cried, "What happened to Grandpa?" Mom looked up. "Oh, well done, Barry. Now Jack's woken up." She put her hand over the receiver. "Go back to bed this instant, young man. You've got school in the morning." "I don't care," replied the boy in defiance. "What happened to Grandpa?" Mom returned the telephone call. "Barry, call me back in 2 minutes. It's all going off here now and all." Just slammed down the receiver. "What happened?" demanded the boy again as he ran down the stairs in to join his mother. Mom sighed theoretically, as if all the woes of the world were on her shoulders. She did the boy again as he ran down the stairs to join his mother. I'm sorry. She did that lots. It was at this exact moment that Jack realized he could smell cheese. Not just normal cheese, smelly cheese, blue cheese, runny cheese, moldy cheese, cheesy cheese. His mother worked at the cheese counter on a local supermarket, and whenever she went, a strong waft of cheese came with her. Boots stood the hall of the nightclothes. Jack in the strippy blue pajamas, and his mother in a pink, flowing nightgown. Her hair was clarified, and she had thick smears of face cream, and her cheeks, forehead, and nose. She often left it on overnight. Jack wasn't sure exactly why. Mom thought of herself as quite a beauty, and often claimed to be the glamorous face of cheese. If such a thing was possible, Mom flicked a light and they both blinked from the moment of the sudden brightness. "Your grandpa's gone missing again." "Oh no." "Oh yes," the man sighed. Once more, it was clear she was worn out by the old man. Sometimes she would even roll her eyes at Grandpa's war stories, as if she was bored. This bothered Jack greatly. Grandpa's stories were infinitely more exciting than being told about a week's best-selling cheese. Me and your father were woken up by a phone call about midnight. From who? His neighbor downstairs, you know. The newsagent man. After the big house had become too much for him, Grandpa had moved last year to a little flight about the shop. Not just any shop, the newsagent shop. Not just any newsagent shop, Rogers. "Rog?" replied Jack. Now, yeah, that's his name, Rog. Said he thought he heard the grandpa's door bang around the midnight. He knocked on his door, but there was no answer. The poor man got himself in a terrible panic, so he called here. Where's Dad? He jumped in the car and has been searching for your grandpa for the past couple of hours. Couple of hours? The boy couldn't believe what he was hearing. Why on earth didn't you wake me? Mom sighed again. Tonight was turning into something a side tone. Me and your dad know how fond you are of him. So we didn't wake you and worry, did we? Well, I'm worried, replied the boy. In truth, he felt closer to his excitement grandfather than he had anyone else in the family, including his mother and father. Time spent with Grandpa always precious. We're all worried, replied Bob. I am really worried. Well, we are really worried. Well, I'm really, really worried. Well, we're all really, really worried. Now, please, let's not have a competition about who is the most worried. She shut angrily. Jack could tell his mother was becoming increasingly stressed, so though it's the best not to reply the last remark, even though he was really, really, really worried. I've told your dad 100 times your grandpa needs to be the old folks home. Never, said the boy. He knew the old man better than anyone. Grandpa would absolutely hate that. Grandpa, or Wing Commander Bunting, as he was known during the war, was far too proud to spend the rest of his day with lots of old dears during the crosswords and the thing. Mom shook her head and sighed. Jack, you are too young to understand. Like all children, Jack hated being told this, but now wasn't the time to argue. Mom, please, let's go and look for him. Are you nuts? It's freezing tonight, replied the woman. But he have to do something. Grandpa is out there somewhere lost. Ring, 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 ring. Jack hung the telephone, left the receiver before his mother could. Dad, where are you? The town square? Mom just said he would come out and help you look, Grandpa. He lied, as his mother gave him an angry look. Well, be there as soon as we can, he said. Jack opened the door and the pair ran out into the darkness.